All right. Hello, everyone. This is Cassus Café, and we're here with Kli'nah
Hello.
and Captain
Sup?
and Tykoth.
Hey.
And this is our first video. We're going to be reviewing and discussing the first episode of Mandalorian Season 3, and we're all very excited.
I think we all have also a different amount of opinions and emotions and feelings in regards to where this is going.
And that's the whole point of this channel, is to just be a group of friends that have different, takes and opinions and
Different backgrounds.
yeah, and different views on Star Wars in general, because Lord knows, especially three of us, me, Tykoth, and Captain, we have completely different, worldviews when it comes to Star Wars. So,
Yeah, probably just unlike Disney Star Wars specifically.
well, yeah.
Don't get them
Probably.
started.
Yeah, definitely on
we-
Disney Star Wars.
We all like the originals and we all like the prequels. We're all like on the same
Oh, yeah.
page. Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Just don't get them started about Clone Wars.
Yeah, that's a different can of worms.
I'm just here for funsies.
Yeah, she's a normie.
But that's important. That's critical.
Yeah,
Because that's who they're trying to appeal to a lot.
exactly.
I'm the normie point of view in this scenario.
Yeah, but she's heavily influenced by me because I tell her what to think.
That's true.
So you're biased. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a
I'm
biased
slightly
normie.
biased.
Unreliable normie.
Yeah.
Do we want to give like a brief background as to like what we do for a living, as to maybe help frame how some of our opinions might be shaped?
Or maybe we could do something similar, but give us a basic viewpoint of what you think about Star Wars in general, and maybe Disney Star Wars in general.
I'm gonna say there's defining point that greatly affects that opinion.
But where you came from as a Star Wars fan, I'll let you guys go first. So let's do Captain first. He'll probably be the longest.
I'll try to be concise for my love of Star Wars. So yeah, the first thing I actually saw was as a kid, is I actually saw the original trilogy because my parents saw it. Got to see it at home on the television. Found Darth Vader very scary as a young child. But obviously being born in the early 90s, grew up with the prequels. And honestly, that's when I actually got in love with Star Wars. I've always been into huge sci-fi battles, and the prequels brought a certain style of conflict that the originals didn't. The originals was very guerrilla warfare, whereas the prequels were more of a large-scale warfare. You had this very large, dumb army versus a smaller but still very large, very elite army, which affected how the battles were fought at a very critical time in the story of the universe. So I was very much enthralled by that, and I love the prequels for that reason. I acknowledge they're not the best films compared to the OG films, but that doesn't mean I can't love them for what they are.
Nice. Now, Tykoth.
Right, yeah. So A New Hope was my very first live-action film I ever watched. I was 5 years old.
Really?
And-
That's so cute.
Wow.
Yeah, my adopted dad at that point, now he's been my dad my whole life, was the first one to show it. And he's the one who got me into movies in general, to which I have seen over 3,000 something now. And and from then on, I love Star Wars. I love the prequels. I love everything about it. And then Disney came and bought it up. And lots of people hate them. And I don't have the same hostility. I think the sequel trilogy is good. It's okay. It's fine. It's not. Yeah, I don't mind it. But I tend to really like the shows. I very much like Obi-Wan. I very much adore Andor, and I've really enjoyed Mandalorian so far. So I'm kind of I see the faults of things, but I also am like a very positive Star Wars fan, because it takes me back to the universe that I was when I was 5 years old, like so many other millions of people.
All right. I watched Star Wars as a younger person. I don't know how old I was when I first watched them, because I just don't have a very good memory with that. But I liked them. I love the Ewoks in episode 6, and my favorite part is the climax of episode 3. where Palpatine gets shocked, and then Anakin goes and kills all the children.
That's your favorite moment?
Yes.
Yeah, her favorite moment is when Anakin kills the kids.
So you married a psychopath?
Yes.
No. But I remember I watched the first sequel movie because my uncle bought all of us tickets for Christmas, and then I didn't go see the second of the sequels because I was like, oh, this is trash. And then my dad got free tickets for the premiere of the third sequel, so I was like, well, now I have to watch the second one, and I watched
They were
it.
just giving them away at that
And the
point.
whole time I was like, is that Pippin or Mary or whatever, one of those, is that him?
Mary.
And it was.
Yeah.
And my favorite show that's come out is Andor so far. I loved that show. I've seen like 2 episodes of the Clone Wars and like 1 episode of Bad Batch, and that's it.
Yeah, well, you've seen the Mandalorian.
Yeah, I've
seasons.
seen all the Mandalorian. I've seen all the live action shows and all the
Yeah.
live action movies. But
And Book of Boba, you kind of like that.
yeah, I liked the parts that were the Book of Boba Fett did. And then
So
it became the
episodes that
Mandalorian for an
weren't the
episode.
Mandalorian.
Yeah. I mean, those were fine. They just weren't. They shouldn't
I
have
mean,
been there.
like I said at the time, like it's a good episode, but it's got the wrong title.
Well, I think that topic's gonna fit into this review. So.
That topic will definitely come up later. All right, so for me, man, I want to say I probably watched the original trilogy first, but when I think about my first Star Wars movie, I always think of when I watched Phantom Menace around like 5 years old or something like that. So I really have a deep love for that film out of the prequels in particular, even though it's probably the worst out of them. But my favorite Star Wars film changes every year. It only circulates through the original 6 movies because the sequels don't exist. And when it comes to Star Wars, my one main love about Star Wars is Mandalorians, but the Karen Traviss Mandalorians from the Republic Commando books, the original Tartakovsky Clone Wars miniseries, the comics from before the Clone Wars 3D show came out, all that kind of era of Clone Wars. And so I really have a deep connection and love for what I call the true Mandalorians.
So in your book, because this might be somewhat relevant to the conversation, is Jango Fett a Mandalorian?
Yes.
Okay, we don't care what Disney says, so...
But like in Book of Boba Fett, apparently he's Mandalorian again.
Right.
His background is somewhat similar to what it was in the Legends now, the EU, before Disney. But it's weird. I don't know what they're gonna do with all that. Maybe we'll get a Jango prequel.
With their track record lately, I don't want them to touch my favorite characters.
They're already touching Delta Squad again in the Bad Batch, and I don't know how to feel about it.
That's interesting. I'm not caught up on Bad Batch, so
Another topic for another time.
Yeah, that I haven't watched any of it. I just know that the latest episode had Scorch in it.
oh, interesting.
Yeah, so I haven't watched any of the Bad Batch yet. I'm waiting for that to all come out and I'll binge it.
Oh, it's probably safe to say we're all enormous fans of the games as well.
Oh, yes.
We've played I have played most of them outside of Yoda stories.
Yeah, if it wasn't for the fact that Steam wasn't around in my childhood, I would be scared to know how many thousands of hours I have playing the original Battlefront, Battlefront 2, and then Empire at War. Like I said, I liked the big battles. I liked those. I wasn't so much into the Jedi. I was more into like an on the boots on the ground kind of perspective of the universe.
Yeah, same.
Oh, and I'm super into the puppetry.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part. I literally love it. I love Ewok.
Well, we might have something to talk about in that regard.
I have a note on that. Yeah.
All right, well, speaking of that, why don't we just dive right in?
So why don't we start with the the summary that leads into the episode first?
Yeah, like the previously on stuff.
And where this episode starts, because I think that's a point we all agree on was very weak. I guess I'll go ahead and summarize it. If you don't watch the Book of Boba Fett and you last saw Mando in season 2 of his own show, he had let Grogu go and then removed his helmet and had no ship. He shows up at the beginning of this episode with the ship and with Grogu. And it's like, wait a minute, what happened here? And this is a bit of a fail in my opinion, because they seem to summarize like 2 seasons worth very briefly, but really should have taken that time to be like, hey, in case you didn't watch the Book of Boba Fett, this is what happened that was relevant for Mando, because this is one of the biggest critiques I have. They had Mando go through some life-altering, events outside of his own show. That's like on the list of things you don't do when you're creating a show or any kind of media. If you write a book and then you write a book that follows up to it in a different timeline, you don't have major events that happen between your books. Same happens with your movies and your seasons. You don't have major life-altering events that happen between your seasons, because then you have your viewer going, wait, what? Like you have here. In this case, we are fortunate somewhat that you could at least go watch another show and see what happened, but you shouldn't have to go to another medium of entertainment to understand your current form of entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kind of agree, because I feel like they probably should have made it more obvious that Book of Boba Fett is like part of this main like Mandalorian.
And it's like essential viewing.
Yeah, like essential viewing for the Mandalorian and stuff like that. Also, just to touch on the previously on segment right before the episode started, it's all scenes from the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
So if somebody that hasn't watched Book of Boba Fett watches this and the previously on, they're like, where was all this? Where'd this come from?
Well, that's the thing. It's not all of it, because I have it right here. They're showing parts from season 2.
Oh,
like
they are?
When what's her name that shows up and she takes her helmet off and he's like, you're not Mandalorian.
Oh, yeah.
And it also shows the scene of him taking his helmet off for Grogu.
Yeah.
But immediately after, it switches to the scene from the Book of Boba Fett of him talking to, I forget her name, the person that forges everything.
Yeah, the armor, yeah.
Yeah, the armor. And she's like, you have taken off your helmet, therefore you're not Mandalorian anymore. Which, that's a point in itself. It's like, he has the Darksaber. He could be like, no, I am Mandalorian. You're not Mandalorian. We're changing things.
Right, but they don't believe in that. It's something I thought was a weak or a weird point in Book of Boba Fett, and it came across just about as weird as I expected it to in the start of the new season. So yeah, that's one of the biggest flaws. Is just that aspect.
There's a point that kind of circles back to this that happens a little bit after the first part of the episode where they fight the monster. But we'll get to that. But after that, it's the scene where Mando's in the armor's, forge and talking to her again. And they're basically, for the first half of that conversation, I felt it was really kind of clunky. They were reusing dialogue from their scenes together in Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, I did notice that.
Are you talking about in the cave after he comes in and rescues them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's sitting in the forge talking to her about wanting to go to Mandalore to, redeem himself and stuff. Like, this is all stuff they've already talked about before, and it's kind of a weird rehashing of that conversation from Book of Boba Fett.
Right, and this is clearly trying to get the audience caught up if you haven't watched that show.
Yeah, I mean, in that sense, I understand why they did it, but
they did not execute very well.
I felt like they could have done a bit better with the dialogue, maybe changed it a little bit more so it's not the exact same things they said to each other. Now, when he presented the inscription on this shard of glass or whatever, after he does that, then I think the scene gets more solid. And because it's building upon that whole thing.
Well, because you're not recapping, now you're moving your plot forward at that point.
Right. So I feel like that whole scene was just kind of, it could have been done better, I think. The first half, at least.
And to be honest, I kind of wonder if they did some sort of post ADR or whatever, because Oh, in this case, there's no lips to deal with, right? So you could do whatever you want.
I mean, everything in this show would be ADR. Yeah.
Yeah.
But in this particular case, I noticed there was a lot of exaggerations of the helmet moving when he was talking. And I was just like, dude, you could just sit there and talk. You don't have to be like up and down, you know, all this. And I'm like, why do I feel like you're making all this, you know?
That's been kind of a typical Mandalorian thing, a very, very accentuated movements. Yeah.
Yeah, because because he's wearing the helmet the whole time. I mean, I feel like that's something, maybe you're just not used to it since it's been a while, but I think it's something that he always does.
But, well, that's the only part of the show, because, you know, as someone who's watched all the seasons, like, if this particular scene, it felt a little out of place, which makes me wonder if they had original dialogue, then they changed it.
That's possible.
So it doesn't feel like it fits, because later in the show, it feels like it's much better aligned.
Yeah, when I was watching that, I was like, it would be so easy for them to just change the dialogue in any scene with the Mandalorian, because you don't have to worry about their lips matching. You can just have the same video, but have completely different audio. It would be so easy to just change the story.
They got to do voice, voice effects for him anyway.
I'd be a little surprised, but yeah.
But yeah, it definitely feels it feels very patchy, that opening scene, compared to what follows. Since we've skipped over it, I kind of want to briefly ask the opening scene itself, because I have someone who doesn't read the books that is not well in depth of Mandalore. You know, I'm not entirely sure like everything that I'm watching, and so I don't know if like, is this weird or is this normal? I don't know. But there are some things I'm like, bro, what are you doing? So, but I'll try not to get ahead of myself. Let's start with like the whole like, I guess, what would you call it?
Well, my first thought was, is this a flashback? Like when that started.
Okay, yeah, that's where I was too. I thought it could be little Din Djarin, you know.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I thought too.
That's exactly what I thought.
And I think that's what they wanted, kind of a double fake out.
Well, the only reason why I didn't think that, I thought that until she painted it. I was like, well, that's clearly not his helmet. And it's also smaller than his. I'm like, that's when I was like, okay, it's not him.
I also didn't think there were that many of them left at that point.
Well, there's maybe from that sect of it, but
well, you're kind of right, because Book of Boba Fett would make you think that there's only the armorer and what's his face left.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and so I thought it was flashback because I'm like, oh look, they're still alive, and then we see all
maybe
of them.
Some of the people from what's her name?
Bo.
No, at the end.
Bo-Katan.
Yeah, maybe some of the people from Bo-Katan went and joined them because were like, let's yeet her and go.
No, because she clearly says is that they took the fleet and are just mercenaries now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's clearly not. But they do take people in, because Jin was not born of Mandalore; he was adopted.
Oh, yeah.
So you could, in theory, replenish your ranks by just finding those who are, lack of a better term, worthy.
Well, yeah, it's what foundlings. Yeah, they call them foundlings.
But I think a foundling would have to be a child, not an adult.
Mainly.
Too, as well.
Yeah.
Right, which is what it was. Yeah. I liked the opening overall though, like just seeing that kid. I liked the shift of the fake out. I thought it was fun. I thought it was cool.
Now, I'm not sure, like, so they had the whole like initiation. Now, I did have a minor pet peeve. This kid had long hair, and I was like, well, that's not going to seal. Place his helmet on there. Sealing sound. I'm sorry. That's just not how that works.
That's a good note to notice, man.
Well, I'm an engineer by trade, so I notice things like that.
No, it kind of threw me off, but I just like let it pass.
Well, it's hilarious because the scene after, the hair is gone, and I was like, okay, it magically appeared. Then the scene after that, hair comes back, and I'm like, okay, this is so bad.
It was probably a stunt double, so that they didn't shove a kid onto the ground a few minutes later.
I think what they did is they just didn't record them in order, and that was just that's one of those things they didn't keep track of.
That's pretty standard
continuity errors.
Yeah.
Yeah, those happen in the best of movies of all time. So right after that, we get the creature attack coming on land.
Does anybody know what that creature is? I just want to ask.
No, it's a space turtle gator.
Okay, that's literally what I was like. Okay, that's a gator with a turtle shell on it.
Yeah.
The only thing we said ahead of time that we thought was like some pacing issues, and that was something where I thought pacing is weird because it's just like it just happens so out of left field, just boom, right in your face. Did you guys feel like that?
Well, the first thought that came to my mind was, wait, so you're having this ceremony in the water, but these gigantic crocodile creatures exist? I don't know about you, but for those who live in Florida, we're not stupid enough to walk into the water like that when we know crocs live in it like that.
Have you met people? People are pretty stupid.
What I'm saying is your average Floridian doesn't do that. These people clearly live here because they're in hiding, and you did that?
Well, it wasn't as much about that, like the logic of it. It was just like so fast. It's just like there's no warning, there's no lead up or suspense there. It's just like boom, move.
Yeah, she's just like, she puts her hand up like, I hear something, and it's like, you hear like a minor, and then all of a sudden it's like, you're not a Jedi.
I don't mind the concept. They need something that he can save them from. They need to show off all their strength or whatever. It was just like the quickness of it.
Again, poorly executed. You could have had a shot of the water slowly turning upward into like a spine, showing that something massive is approaching the shore.
I mean, you've got the classic Jurassic Park, Spielberg method of the cup, the water bouncing or moving, right? All that sort of stuff.
You didn't have to have it just go like, poof, here I am. It's like, okay.
But I also get 30-minute runtime. There's that too.
No, I don't take that as an excuse, because this is the shortest one they've ever done. They've had longer.
Yeah.
Not to mention, you're publishing it on your own platform.
Yeah.
There is no such thing as time constraints.
Or commercial breaks.
So I will not hear that as a plausible excuse.
I mean, there's time restraints from Disney.
Well,
not from the creators, but Disney is mandating stuff.
I don't know. This show was in how long in development? I mean, we got seasons 1 and 2, and then we had to wait like how long for season 3?
2 years.
Yeah.
2
so
years.
I don't want to hear any excuses of like, well, they only got so much time to work on. Bullcrap. You had an extra year.
No. It's not about time. It's about what they mandate and what they want to do compared to the people who are making it. Yeah.
Right. I don't blame the people who are in this particular case, like if they only had so much time to build it, but like I said, you had 2 years. So
no, it's more like they had something, they had it longer, and then Disney told them to cut it. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I'm sure that stuff happens all the time.
I don't know. With this gator turtle, my thought was, why don't they just run back into the cave? Or like, why doesn't someone like shove this kid away so that he don't die?
Yeah, that was I was expecting them to just like, all right, retreat in the cave. No, they're just gonna stand on the ground and shoot it. I was like,
they're just gonna waste all of their ammunition on this gator that they can't kill without a spaceship.
Well, so at one point they flew on there and put the explosives on there, and I was like, all right, someone has some brain. Then I looked at where they put it, and I was like, no, you guys, you put it on the most armored part of the croc. Why on earth would you do that? Oh, look, it didn't do anything. You're stupid.
Maybe throw one into his mouth.
I wrote down a few questions of why not run into the cave. Maybe it's because of honor, glory in combat, maybe stupidity because they're trying to survive, yet they decide to attack this creature when they could just run away.
I mean, they're not like the the sand people. They're not going to harvest it for food afterwards.
Yeah. The only thing I can like get my head around maybe is that just Mandalorians, they like to fight.
Yeah. But it's like I was watching this fight. I'm like, what are y'all doing? And then once the explosives didn't their next logic is, let's just harpoon it. I'm like, what do you think that's going to accomplish? Like, I was like, I've never seen Mandalorians act so incredibly out of character.
And besides Mando and Paz, and maybe the armor in some situations, I feel like they're the only Mandalorians that know what they're doing.
Right, and in this particular case, I felt like we sacrificed the intelligence of the Mandalorians just so that a Mandalorian could fly in and save them. This to me, this is classic Disney.
I mean, that's classic movies.
We'll sacrifice the integrity of whatever we're filming for the sake of emotional payoff.
Booms and flashes.
Visual flashes and emotional payoff. I was watching this. I was literally sitting there the first time watching this. I'm like, so is the Mandalorian going to come in here and save him? Oh, look, that's exactly what happened. Because that's how it's so predictable now. Once you watch enough Disney content, you kind of figure it out. What they will sacrifice so much in terms of like, what are you doing in your intelligence to have that payoff? I put that in air quotes. That's the whole point of that. Why they did that. You know, we'll have the Mandalorians act so that Mando can come in and have the saving day as he blows him up with the N1 starfighter, because we know the prequel fans love the N1.
I will say I do love that. Like seeing it again, I do love that design of like what they did with it, the silver shot. It's just like it's a great model. It looks so good.
All right, let's move on. But I will say one thing when it comes to that whole crocodile fight scene. A little small two things. I really like the design of the turtle croc thing. I thought just the animation, his movements, everything, it was really cool. And I loved the scene or the sequence where he did the death roll like a real crocodile. Yeah. I'm like, dude, that was fun. And then when they put the detonators on the back and flew off, the one shot from the guy's helmet looking down as he's blasting off, that was such a cool shot.
Also,
do you remember that one?
Also, this was the first time back from Andor, and I just forgot how good Mandalorian looked too, because Andor looks literally incredible. And so I was wondering about Mandalorian again, and I just was like, oh, this looks really nice. So it was like a good looking opening scene.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like even though we have a little bit of misgivings on pacing and story and whatnot, the overall look of the show, I feel so far looks bigger and better than the other seasons.
I do have some positive comments for later in the show. I just do want to say that. I also want to say that from a visual perspective, I give it like a 9 out of 10. Like, it's incredibly good looking. There are a few scenes where I'm like, this seems a bit off. We'll get to that. But mostly I'm like, it looks beautiful. But from a multi-billion-dollar company, I would not expect less. So, just saying. But for those who do work in the artistry department, had to do all the CGI, you guys got an A+.
All right, so next scene, isn't it?
Navarro?
Well, it's them traveling to Navarro, right? It's in the hyperspace. So there's something that happens in hyperspace. I don't know if you guys understand the significance of this.
I do.
I don't think you guys haven't watched Rebels, have you?
I have watched Rebels.
I have watched all of Rebels. Yeah.
So I know what's here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Then, okay, never mind.
They're hinting to that ending of Rebels. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Purrgil and the Hyperlane. Kli'nah hasn't seen.
It's space whales.
Rebels. Yeah, space whales that can travel in hyperspace.
It just reminds me of that episode of Doctor Who where there's a civilization living on the back of a star creature thing.
I don't remember that.
Oh, well, that's sad.
Yeah. Potentially teasing more with that, though.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if it's just like an Easter egg or if they're foreshadowing something. You never know. All right, Navarro. It grew up real fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do have some major pluses for this.
I have some major negatives for this.
Interesting.
Actually, me too.
Yeah, there's some things overall the Navarro stuff. I mean, okay, so when it comes to the droid stuff, I have some misgivings.
This is my least favorite segment, but has my favorite scene in it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I can agree.
I'm actually like the opposite of that, but
I think we probably have different favorite scenes.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. So he comes back to Navarro and meets up with Grief Karga, and I don't know if it's just I can't put my finger on it, but there's something about the actor that plays Grief. I forget his name at the moment. I know it's terrible.
Carl Weathers.
Yeah, Carl Weathers. There's something about his acting in this show in general that is not bad, but it's I can't put my finger on it. It's like I don't know. Maybe somebody else has an idea, but it's a little inconsistent, I guess you could say.
It's just off.
It feels weird to me. Like it's not like it feels like he's a little bit more, I don't know, trying to show kind of like a theater acting rather than movie acting. I don't know. It feels interesting.
It doesn't stick out to me as particularly like incredible, but it doesn't stick out to me as something bad personally.
I think maybe just in this episode for me it did. And it hasn't really done this as much in the other seasons.
Do you like
but
his little?
for some reason this episode.
Do you like his little droids holding his cape though?
I thought
You know
awesome.
what I have a problem with? The droids are holding his cape, and they're supposed to, like, hold it so that it doesn't drag along
We
the ground.
could fight on that.
But his cape still drags along the ground.
Oh,
His
yeah.
cape drags along the ground still.
Yeah. Well,
So, like, what was the
they're
point
not
of
very
that?
good, but they're
cute, I
adorable.
agree.
Yeah. If you want them out of the show, I won't be back on.
No.
We won't. We can't agree.
I just need them to do their jobs better.
They're trying. They're doing the best they
No.
can.
Yeah. All right. So the major thing that happens before he meets Grief anyway was he comes up to IG-11's statue, and at first I'm just like, oh, that's cute. It's a statue commemorating IG-11. He saved the town. Blah blah blah. And then later on he come to find out he wants to take his parts, but like I'm thinking just because when he says that I'm thinking, wait, these are his real parts? At least like the chest and head and whatever. Why is his torso in one piece? Can you explain that to me?
You mean the part where it blows up?
Or how are all the
No, I don't know.
insides still there, too? Even if it did, like, explode and the shrapnel was able to be collected, the inside wiring is still there, which makes no sense.
Well, his whole torso is in one piece,
Yeah.
and his self-destruct.
You can weld it back together.
Well, it's not. It's not.
But
in
it
one
is, and his
piece.
self-destruct detonator was in the chest.
It's not. I'm literally looking at it right now. It's not in one piece. That said, it is in better shape than what it should be in. It should be in a billion pieces.
Yeah, because the literal compartment that his detonator was in that part that is in one piece.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it came out of the chest piece, which that part is intact, but for some reason, everything below his chest, so like the waist part where he can rotate 360 degrees, that's gone.
Yeah.
And everything below that is gone.
Yeah, when I
And
was
he's got one
originally
arm.
looking at the statue when we first saw it, I saw that like the two parts were different colors. So I was like, oh, it's probably like part of it's a statue and part of it's him. Like I just assumed. But I thought it was the legs
I
and
thought
the
it was the
arm were the
weathering. That's
parts
what I thought it
that
was.
were his, because I was like, the rest of him should have blown up. Like maybe the legs and arms like flew away and they were able to find them and weld them back together.
Yeah, it's
but
like
no, it's the
maybe
opposite.
maybe his head, but like I don't know.
I don't really mind the logic of it. My big problem with that whole storyline is just that as we get more into it, like it doesn't really go anywhere, and I don't know if it like will go anywhere. It just seems it's a bit of a
It's part
MacGuffin type of
no,
plot,
it's,
you know?
It's
Yeah.
no, it's more of again setting up the plot. You got his first point was he needs to go to Mandalore, right? Well, if that's it, to drag out your whole season on one location, that would be a lot, right? But if you just make that the end goal, now he has to be, I know I'm skipping way far ahead, but if you skip to the end of the episode, basically he's like, all right, I need to find this part so I can get IG-11 back. Well, now you can have multiple episodes of him going to multiple locations, trying to find a part, having an adventure, going, nope, wasn't here, and go back. Because that's how Mandalorian has historically been, right?
Yeah.
You have these like shorter story arcs that may be 1 or 2 episodes, depending on where he is. Especially in like the first season, he landed on that one planet because he keeps trying to hide with the child, and he gets on that one planet and he's like, all right, found this place, went through a bit of an adventure, and then later in another episode it's like, oh, there's these like pirate gang with this Imperial ATST that's causing havoc, and that's a whole episode on dealing with that. So bam, 2 episodes, And then what's the end thing? Well, I was trying to find a place to hide. It's clearly not here. Move on to the next location. So I'm thinking that's what they're setting up here. They're giving him his immediate goal while setting up for his long-term goal.
Speaking of the child and those, it's very obvious in these early scenes that they are full front, like giving Grogu so much screen time because he is obviously very popular, and for better or worse, they are just making him front and center the whole time. Yes, it's very much a product placement type of thing.
Gotta sell that merch.
I know I'm being manipulated, and I kind of like it, but I'm also know I'm being manipulated, so I don't know.
It's also how they get the kids to watch the show too, because the kids want to see Grogu and the cute little things.
And me.
Yeah.
Which, if you do it correctly, I don't care. Like, one of the most scenes where he felt the most out of place is when he was talking to the armorer,
Spinning in his chair.
and he's like, it's like, I'll do all these things, I'll be redeemed. And then
the other one.
And then it goes to Grogu there, and he's like all sad face. I'm like, I don't know what you're trying to. It's like, oh, are you trying to make Grogu make the armorer sad so she will allow him back in? I mean, it just felt weird.
Know what they're doing. It's just to be product, and at the same time I love it, and at the same time I'm like, oh, it's a little disingenuous, but like I can't not like it. So
Well, maybe for you, but I can clearly not like it.
I'm not a huge fan of some of the times when they use like the baby noises for Grogu, because I feel like sometimes it just pulls me out because I'm like, that's a baby, not a Grogu. You know what I mean? Like,
especially if it's in like a serious scene, and all of a sudden you hear baby noises, and you're like,
yeah. I'm like, where did that come from? Oh, that's probably supposed to be Grogu, and it just pulls me out of the scene.
You think there's a real baby somewhere?
Yes, they record baby noise. It's probably someone's child that they went and put a mic in front of them.
I won't skip
I just want to
ahead,
make
but
sure.
there's one scene in particular that makes me think the same way you were thinking right now.
I just want to make sure we're all aware that Grogu isn't real, right? Okay, all right.
What?
But
Only in our only in our heart.
I did want to share my thoughts on leading up to the IG-11 statue. So the first thing is, I do like how, if you like, every season we see this place getting brighter and more professional, cleaned up, not a pirate haven anymore. To be honest, I was really into it after he landed and was just walking through the streets. Hearing the protocol droid announcing the location, all that, I actually felt like I was listening to a Star Wars version of a location in Star Citizen, which is a very vast, and Star Citizen, not to talk too much about it, is very much the idea of like living your own space adventure and in your own way, and it definitely pulls a lot from both like Star Trek, Star Wars, and other sci-fi universes. So
You would figure out a way to incorporate Star Citizen in this.
there was a point where I was in here and I was like, man, this is just really neat. I like how he's just walking down the streets and you get that atmosphere, especially with the trees. I think the trees did a lot for it. It felt a lot more grounded, and for the first time I was like, I could see myself being real. This felt very real and connectable compared to some of the other Star Wars scenes. And I think that it has to do with a lot of the practical effects. There is one scene when it shows these, I forgot what their name, the
Kowakian monkey lizards?
Yeah, they're very much CGI. That's why I didn't give them a perfect 10 out of 10 for this CGI in this one, because it's very clearly a CGI animal on a very real tree. So it sticks out so much. So I rather would have, I know it's more work, but I think a practical prop or animatronic would have done way better, because it's that whole uncanny valley thing where it's like, it's not meshing, so it sticks out. Because one of the things that it's always been hard to do in virtual reality is like trees and water and such. So when you do it practically, it feels a lot more real. And that's the case here. Is like, you can tell those are real trees.
What do you think is more expensive to do nowadays? Would it be just full CGI or full practical animatronics, makeup, all that stuff?
Totally depends.
Well, these days, yeah, I think that does depend on what you're doing. Because clearly, like, computer hardware has advanced a ton since the original Star Wars.
That's kind of what I'm thinking, because it's like it feels like CGI is such the common thing to do nowadays. I feel the less practical stuff is used, the more expensive it is to do, because it's just like a rare thing now.
But it's probably quicker to do it CGI because,
Yeah,
unlike a practical thing where you have to take the time and like plan out your production and be like, all right, Jurassic Park, I need a giant T-Rex. Well, that's going to take a couple of months. Do it, you know, versus there was a guy on YouTube that was like, he CGI'd his own T-Rex into the scenes and it took him like a day. And that was like one person. So if you're on Disney, I'm probably like, I could probably hire a bunch of low-level guys and pay them to just slave away at a computer.
I mean, they have in-house VFX people too. I don't even think they outsource everything.
No, but you know, the point still stands is that they can just keep a company. You don't have to build anything. You just CGI everything. It's probably easier on them because then you just pay the salary of the people that you're having the VFX artists doing. But it definitely hurts the quality.
Yeah, I was going to say the payoff isn't always as good with CGI. Sometimes the practical effects just look way better than what could be done in CGI, just depending on what it is, you know?
There's plenty of CGI though that you could literally never tell. The amount of CGI, I mean, everything in the show is essentially all the backgrounds, all the sand, all the, you know, like so much of it. So,
well, they use Unreal Engine 4 for, I forgot what they call that room that's...
the volume.
Yeah, the volume, yes. Which I do think allows them to create some very good-looking scenes if you mix in the practical. It works, and if you use it in the right ways, yeah. Because, you know, there are certain things you can't do practically. Like, we can't make laser bolts. Those don't exist. Which is why when you CGI them, they don't look out of place, because it's not a real thing. So it's not Uncanny Valley.
if you look at a movie like Gone Girl or whatever with David Fincher, like, there's CGI trash cans, there's CGI signs on buildings, like,
Wow.
there's so much stuff. And in any Hollywood movie, not independent movies because they're way better, but in any Hollywood movie, you'll find everything is like has some sort of CGI enhancement to it, but you'd never know, and that's how good it is.
Well, yeah, but I still do believe that if you minimize the CGI, it looks better.
All right. So, Navarro, we're talking about Grogu stuff. We were talking about IG-11 stuff.
You had a problem with, what's his name? His acting. I didn't have a problem with it. I'll just say that. I honestly didn't.
I only had a slight problem. Like, I don't really think it's bad. Like I said, it's hard to explain.
You're like, something seems off.
But anyway, so the biggest elephant in the room, Cara Dune. I am kind of happy how they handled it because, one, they didn't kill her off.
Yes.
They really technically promoted her to special forces, so it leaves the door open for if they do bring her back.
She can have her own show.
She still has that room for Rangers of the Republic.
Right, which still could happen if they wanted to.
Yeah, I'm not putting too much weight into that.
Yeah, me either, but at least for this show, regardless if you do that or not, it works because it's like, yeah, she's either in special forces and we'll get a show, or he's in special forces and we won't see her again.
And I hope that's the case.
I think this is the writers having to come up with a creative solution for her not being here. I'm glad they did this over recasting her.
Yeah, at least so far.
Well, let's be real. They did something that they should have done for the sequels with Leia, because she had, the actor Carrie Fisher had passed away. So what did they do? All this CGI reused scenes that were deleted and using soundboard of her recordings, and it felt awkward and forced. Versus here, it's like, yeah, just make a quote that, and we have a logical way of her not being here.
It is significant.
Yeah.
I will say it's significantly easier to write around this than it is to write around Leia.
Yeah.
Like, this is a much easier thing to write out.
I mean, I agree it's not impossible for Leia, but that's a different topic of discussion. But for here, absolutely. I think their canon explanation makes a lot of sense. She turned in Moff Gideon, and it's like, oh yeah, well, you turned in this guy? Well, we want to recruit you special forces. It's like, yeah, it makes sense.
And if that was indeed her last scene in season 2, then I think it's a great last scene. I think that finale is awesome, and it's a good send off, and we're good if that's all we get.
Right, and to be honest, it also fits because I believe she used to be a shock trooper from the rebellion. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Complete their arc, and you're done.
Yeah, I think I have no quell with that. Yeah, I think it's fine.
Yeah, I'm super glad on how they handled that. All right. Alternate ending, I have written Mando becomes Marshal and the credits roll. The end.
I mean,
I can dig it.
Well, to a certain point, like, who cares about that cult? I forgot the Mandalorian that wanted the dark saber.
Oh, Bo-Katan.
As you can see, I'm terrible with names. But yeah, she was like, dude, you're part of a cult. Like, the vast majority of Mandalorians do not live the way you do. You're still Mandalorian, You're just not part of the Watch anymore. And he's just like, yeah, I want to be part of a cult.
Mm-hmm. Brainwashed.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's really weird. I mean, I understand if they like saved you as a child, you have some sort of loyalty to the group,
which apparently is not shared amongst them because as soon as you took your helmet, they're like, oh, we're not friends anymore.
It's because he broke the rules, It's whatever.
That's how cults function, So it's that way. So it makes sense to me.
Yeah. It's just like someone came to you, gave you the logic, and he's like, yeah, no, I still want to be part of the cult. Yeah.
I mean, cults aren't logical. Yeah.
I mean, clearly from that first scene, we know Mandalorians aren't very smart to begin with, especially the ones in this cult, apparently.
That's fair. That's actually a pretty solid point you have there, because if they were smart, they wouldn't have fought the Croc that way.
So after that, they have this fight, or maybe I'm mixing up the sequences. But
the fight's not quite there, but we're close. Yeah. To go along to your alternate ending, he could have legit said, I like your offer, but I want to take care of this one business first. He could have totally said that. He's like, yeah, I'll gladly be your marshal. I could easily settle down with the kid here. I have a solid income, but I want to take care of something first.
Then season 4 becomes a NCIS catch the bad guys each episode type of show where he just every episode is an issue.
Like a traditional Western in Navarro.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, it would be actually pretty dope. You would just have, every episode or maybe 2 or 3 episodes is a particular story arc of him dealing with things that are going on. Because it was mentioned that, hey, this is a legit trading hub now. This is not a pirate gang. So it could be him, season 4, dealing with those issues of these pirates that are still stubborn in their ways, who don't want to accept that fact, and he could be the guy that's just like, no, I'm keeping these streets clean.
Plus, we could get a lot of Daddy Mando stuff,
Yeah, you could have that time with the kid, with Grogu. It could work.
I don't know if they would want to keep him on one planet for an entire season, though. I feel like they want to make him traveling all the time.
No, they don't, because then they can't bring out the N1 if he stays on the planet all the time.
Yeah. I guess he could go have space battles with the space pirates, though.
Yeah, and you could also, with enough creativity, something happens on the planet. He finds something on, a dead person or something, and he's got to do detective work.
And then bounty hunts them.
Not necessarily bounty hunt, but, he stumbles across something, maybe there's a data chip that's relevant to something important that's going on in the other part of the galaxy. And, he brings it up, and he's like, hey, this is what this person was carrying. And he was like, well, maybe you should see about getting this to the proper point, or maybe it's damaged and he doesn't understand everything on it. So he has to go on this investigative journey of going around trying to find something.
There's also the emotional angle of just getting over his cult and just dealing with the repercussions of leaving something that you love. I mean, when you leave any form of a belief system and that thing, you have to deal with it. So just an emotional journey would be cool. That's always my go-to.
Right, and and just a quick idea. maybe a Imperial Rebel spy, or I guess Republic spy, maybe First Order spy. Ooh, there are some spy shenanigans that happens on the planet, and he finds something that uncovers something that doesn't make a lot of sense, which could result in him having to go on a journey other parts of the galaxy. Boom, you have your space adventure. There are creative ways of him having that being his place to be, which for a while it was. That's where he always came to in season 1 when he was a bounty hunter. You can still have that as your established point. It's a very good alternate ending you have written there. Yes, I would love to have that ending, and there's also still story potential there.
Yeah. After they, have that little discussion, they're at the droid statue. They go and bring the droid in to Din's.
No, they talk about the statue, but there's another scene that happens first.
They talked about needing the droid. That's what
he needs the droid.
So yes, they were talking about it. He's like, yes, I need IG-11 to go to Mandalore. This is what I was saying earlier. This is your immediate adventure setup for your eventual final adventure.
Why do you think he needs the droid?
I don't know, unless he thinks that because it's supposed to be this like deserted world that you don't know what you're going to find, especially if you're going down in the mines. Like, it's effectively been space nuked.
That was my thing at the beginning of the episode, or beginning of the story. I didn't see a point for this to exist quite yet. And I may be made mistaken later on, but it just didn't seem super relevant.
Here's my theory. I think he needs the droid because he's like, oh, I need this droid that I trust. I think he's going to go down into the mines and he's going to go bathe in the water. But he said he needs to prove that he bathed in the water. So my theory is that he needs a droid to like record him bathing in the water. But this droid is the only droid he trusts enough to see him bathing in the water or something stupid like that.
You know,
he's going to get naked in the water and he needs somebody to trust.
You never know. We're going to get that Din Djarin booty shot. Who knows?
Wow.
We can hope. We can hope.
Yes, I would agree with you. From what we know so far, that makes the most sense. I think the real reason is that they want to bring IG-11 back.
I mean, that's probably a legitimate reason. But I think another, legitimate reason why he would need the droid is possibly to send down as, recon to assess the planet before, he goes down there.
Is there radiation down there?
Exactly.
He goes down there. Yep, it's radioactive. You probably would die down here, but because I'm a droid, I'm fine.
Exactly. That's probably why he needs it, just as a testing measure. That's what I would assume.
There's multiple reasons why you could see potentially a need for a droid.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we haven't actually seen what it's like down there. So we can only speculate why he would need it. Other than him just being like, I'm a Mandalorian, and unlike those other people, I'm not stupid. I'm not going in unprepared. I don't know what I'm going to face. It's always good to have backup.
All right, fight. The duel.
Yes, the pirate scene.
I really enjoyed that.
I did too. This is probably one of the best scenes in the show, in my opinion. It's very well written.
I like how Mando's just kind of watching in the back. And Carl Weathers' character, Grief, he handles situation on his own up until, the rest of the gang decides to break their blasters out. But he wins the duel. He's not, washed up. He still can hold his own. And I like his character. I like how he was written.
Mando also feels a little Boba Fett here, too, sitting silently in the corner watching.
Yeah, everything just fell into place here with the official person talking and being like, yeah, these are the streets. That's a school now. You don't have a drink there. Mando's just sitting there not getting involved until, he's just being there just in case. It's very well written. Whoever wrote this scene, you knew what you were doing.
Props.
Yeah, massive props. It's a classic Western scene,
Which I find it interesting, hasn't gotten old.
It works.
You see this kind of stuff in all sorts of movies. And obviously, if you watch a lot of Westerns like I used to, you see it all the time.
It all has to do with plot and setup.
And setting.
If you do it right, it works. This makes sense. This is not in the New Republic. This is not in the, Imperial territory.
This is the Outer Rim.
The Outer Rim. He even says this is like an independent system. This is not fallen under the major area. So you would have situations like this, right?
Yeah.
As we mentioned, this city used to be a pirate haven. It makes sense that pirates would come back and be like, whoa, what do you mean I can't go in there?
He mentions to him, too, that, we don't want the New Republic here or whatever. I think that's kind of cool anytime the good guys are made to also not seem the best, so that they're like isn't really a good guy. I just love those little comments.
Well, he came up with a very logical reason because he's like, I don't want to be bogged down by another bureaucratic society. Which, to be fair, if you look at the sequels, I wouldn't want to be under the New Republic either because they were a bunch of morons.
These pirates wanted to get into this school. 5 pirates versus 1 protocol droid. Did they really want to get in, or did they just want to cause a fuss? Because they could have just shoved that protocol droid over because he doesn't have any combat functions. He's not capable of stopping them aside from saying, no, you can't come in. This is a school. You know?
Oh, heavens.
Maybe they just wanted to cause a ruckus.
Yeah, it did. And to be honest, the way they acted, it kind of felt like that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to cause a ruckus. And if you think about it, they almost achieved what they wanted. They got the High Magistrate to come out and, oh, you're soft, old man. And if you think about it, hey, if he eliminates the High Magistrate, it opens up the door to chaos on this settlement, and then the pirates can come back.
Also, by the end of this episode, though, this pirate gang is down like 9 members. So did they really win?
Well, I was speculating if they had won the fight.
What species are those?
All right, yeah. So I can tell you, I've heard people think he's a Weequay and all these other things. He's a Nikto.
A Nipto?
The main,
Nick.
Nick, Nikto. Yeah, Nikto. Because there's also a Weequay in their bunch, but it's not him. It's not the main guy that was, being a fool. It's a Nikto.
Yeah.
What planet are they from?
Oh, Corin is the Nikto.
Mon Calamari. The
No,
corn.
the Nikto. Kintan. They're from Kintan.
I can see why people think the Weequay too. They look kind of in that same.
You can kind of tell the difference because the Nikto have horns on their head and the Weequay don't.
Yeah.
So we have this amazing pirate scene. I think we all agree. Awesome shootout.
Yeah.
I like it.
Maybe the minor weak point of like, why didn't they just go into school if they wanted to? Other than the fact that maybe they were intentionally trying to draw out the High Magistrate so they could kill him.
I like the idea that it was a rough and grimy barn. They're like, it's a school. It's nice. It's
Yeah,
cute.
I do too.
It's like the complete opposite of a bar.
Yeah. So after all this, Mando goes back to Stab. She's like, yeah, I need IG-11. And he's like, why? We got, what you see is what we got. We're lucky to find what we found. And he's just like, nope, I need this droid because I trust this droid.
This droid or no droid?
No droid for you.
So he convinces the High Magistrate, let me give it a shot at fixing it. So it shows the portions that were recovered are removed, and then goes back to the office and he's working on it.
Yep, and we kind of covered it, the torso deal, but I did like.
Yeah.
I watched Star Wars theories kind of break down and stuff on the episode. I just thought it was funny a comment he made when the droid is crawling across the floor, with his one arm. It's like Anakin in episode 3. He's like, I hate you.
Wow, that could have been intentional. Like, hey, if you,
I instantly thought like Terminator, the classic.
I'm sure there's a reference in there somewhere. So, what are your thoughts on the protocol droid dropping the statue on IG to smash his face in to stop him?
That was
think
funny.
Freaking Din shot him in the first place in season 1 with one shot to the head. Why is his bullets not working now?
Oh, that's a good point.
You like it? It's a protocol droid to help Mom.
Yeah, that's good. We needed more of those.
You make a very, very valid argument. Why is it now when he shoots at it, the bullets do nothing? Or excuse me, blaster bolts do nothing. But like you said, season 1, the first time he sees them, when he's like, oh, I must terminate this child.
Nope.
And he's like, nah, boom, and then falls over. I didn't catch that.
Yeah, it's just, but he's pumping laser bolts into it and it just won't stop now. I don't get it.
Again, I think this has to go back to one of my original points earlier. They sacrificed the integrity of the scene for the sake of a funny moment.
Yeah.
They wanted the statue to fall on his face, just so Mando can make the joke of, well, that's using your head,
That's using your head.
Did anyone see if in the next scene coming up is his head still smashed in when the little dudes are trying to fix
I
him?
don't really think you can see it very well. It's not framed very good.
no, it's not really.
Yeah,
let me
check for
scroll
us.
to that because that is the next scene.
Yeah, when they're fixing it with the Babu Frick.
Because like with so many continuity errors, I wouldn't be surprised
It
if
is
they
the
mixed
best.
that up too.
My favorite scenes in the show is between the duel between Grief and the pirate or this Babu Frick scene, which is really I hate myself for it because I
love
hate
it.
Rise of Skywalker, I hate Babu Frick. But the scene was funny.
It's so good.
I love Doi Boken.
It's like my favorite scene in the whole episode. Absolutely adore it to pieces.
So I actually have. There is a continuity. Well, I'm not sure if it's a continuity error, but like maybe just poor script. Originally, the High Magistrate's like, "Oh, you can't fix them. It's not possible." And then when he's kind of like that. I told you so. When it happened in his office, later. He's in that shop. He goes, "Oh yeah, these guys can fix anything." And I'm thinking, well, why didn't you go there first? If they were going down the street originally, and he's like, "Mando, there's no ways anyone can fix IG-11." And then maybe this guy pops out of the building and goes, "Oh no, I can fix anything. I can prove it." And then maybe they'll look at him and they look at each other like, "Well, let's give it a shot." That would have been a clever way of introducing it, but. Yeah, the High Magistrate literally goes from, "No, you can't fix them. It's not possible." And I told you so when he got all cranky, and started trying to kill him, to, "Oh no, yeah, these guys, they can fix anything." And then later, afterwards, when they're like, "Nope, we don't have the part," he's like, "Nah, if these guys can't fix them, no one can." It's like, bro, make up your mind.
Doi Boken.
But that scene is just such good puppetry. It's so fun. And that, like, for me in Star Wars, that's what it's all about, is like the joyfulness and the whimsicalness. I love it. And so
I was sitting here going, man, they did puppets on these. I can tell.
their little sounds,
Yeah.
it's so great. It's so fun. It reminds me of the good old days. I love it.
It gives me original trilogy vibes.
Especially when Grogu goes and he just like grabs that one too tight. He's like,
Bad baby.
Why I'm with you on, I hate that they pulled something from the sequels. I don't exactly blame the writers, because this is kind of like the writers going, "Oh, man, you guys who wrote the movies, you're just such a bad job. We have to fix your work."
Just one up them.
What do we do? Oh, before the whole sequels ever happened, yeah, there's this shop on this planet. It had a bunch of them. And guess what they do? They fix droids for the living, and they're the best on the planet.
Bad baby.
the protocol droid to help mom.
The scene in itself is very well written. Well, except for the whole, yeah, they can fix it. No, they can't fix it. Yeah, he can't. It's like, bro, make up your mind. Other than that, the puppetry is done very well. It's a good way to try to tie it into the universe.
When they said that it was an old model, they couldn't find the part, they don't make them anymore, and like, well, just upgrade to IG-88, please. Yeah.
Oh, this is an origin story.
Well, IG-88 should already be around, so I have no idea why there's an
Oh, yeah,
IG-11
that's
still
right.
out there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. He's already done.
Well, you got surplus droids, right? You use them, right? Especially if they're assassination droids.
That's why I kept
Oh, they failed.
the whole
Big deal.
time I
Yeah.
was watching this show. I kept referring to him as IG-88. It's because
No, it's
another
not.
one exists.
Yeah. It's
Oh.
IG-11 is the
Yeah.
one in the show.
So after that repair scene, High Master's just like, by the way, the Anzillans can't find it. No one else can. It's like, bruh.
And then
You make up your mind. So this is like the one thing I had an issue with, is like he kept flip-flopping on, "Oh yeah, he could be fixed too." "Oh no, he can't be fixed." "Yeah, he can be fixed." "No, he can't be fixed." So now he's at, "No, he can't be fixed." And Mando's like, "Well, if I find the part," I was like, "Yeah, just tell your Jawa friends like, hey, I need this part, and they'll be back with you within a day." Yeah. So yeah, he gets in his ship, takes off. I do like this next scene where he's trying to teach Grogu how to fly. I think that's the Mandalorian way, right? You're teaching your future, because he is responsible for Grogu, and he's officially family. He's like, yeah, this is how you fly. This is how the fuel gauge works. This is your radar, and there's bad guys.
I have a question regarding that scene. When they take off, Grogu is in his little, top area where the droids usually are. How does he get to the cockpit mid-flight?
So earlier in the show, he did that. He actually went from the bubble into the cockpit to sit in Mando's lap.
How?
It's somewhat, I'm assuming there's a little tunnel for him.
He dropped down.
How does he get out at the end. How does he get out of his little thing and into his little carriage?
He defies physics.
He morphs through walls. There is no door.
It kind of insinuates that he like pops out of the bottom, but if you look what's underneath his little dome, it's the engine. It's the third engine. So there's nothing underneath it.
Well, I think so let me go look.
Oh, no, this is what I was thinking about when I watched it. I was like, how?
You have an engineer on the podcast.
Well,
what you
she's
expect?
the one that brought it up. She's the one that saw it. Because, I mean, I saw it, but I just kind of, like, let it be.
Well,
but she made a point about it.
In all honesty, I was thinking about the Lego set and how you would get the little figure into that spot.
The logistics.
But I was like, you would have to move that seat, but he can't move the seat while he's flying. And then when he gets to that next scene, you see the seat while Grogu's coming out, so it can't be him going through the seat.
I think there's a reason why we don't see him do this. Like,
because it's
he's
impossible?
just all of a sudden in a different
Because he's a
area.
Force user and he's forced
there's
an
literally
imaginary
no
hole through the
legitimate
side
way.
and went through and got out,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
forced it closed.
You know what bothers me?
Well,
You know what bothers me? The logistics of a half-foot tall green alien.
so historically, there used to be a droid that sits
Well,
there, so
yes.
there is still empty space to work with. I'm not going to think about it too hard. We know Grogu can. He went on the Razor Crest. He crawled through a small vent to get to an electrical box. So he doesn't need a whole lot of space to get through areas.
I trust him. Personally, I trust him.
I'm going to be watching and waiting for a time when I see how it happens, and then I will be satisfied.
So I don't think about it too hard. I just like he's got a tunnel that goes from the dome to the cockpit.
He's fighting the pirates in
Spacey.
space. Dude,
It was great.
So I must admit, I was not expecting this scene. I thought after taking off, I was expecting credits.
yeah, honestly, but it's not too much longer after that we get credits. But
So I really, this is one of those things, and I feel like this about the episode as a whole, is each scene individually is good. It's fun. It's nice. But it's all really...
I don't agree with that.
Well, it's all really fun, but it's all fast. It's just like bing, bing, bing. I feel like I'm being ping-ponged like crazy. And this is where I really felt ping-pong.
I also think there would have been a better order to put the scenes in as well.
I do agree the pacing is a bit fast. And this goes back to that. This is the shortest premiere of like any, I think, Disney Plus show. It's like 38 minutes. Like, you know, that's incredibly short for something that, like you said, you publish on your own medium. You have no commercials to work with. You can make it 42 minutes, you know, whatever length you want. You know, you don't have to fit with that unless for some reason Disney mandates that all shows have to fit within a TV commercial format in the event they want to do that. I don't think they will do that.
My final kind of bookend on that point was that, like, I like each individual thing, but put all together feels kind of clunky.
That's what I mean. I think it needs more breathing room. Usually, one of the key things that people talk about good Star Wars content is that there is downtimes between the uptimes. Especially if you go watch the original trilogy. There are those moments where things are slow, like when the Millennium Falcon was getting chased in episode 5 and they go in the asteroid and they don't realize they're inside a creature's stomach. They spend time inside the ship trying to fix it, and they're having, you know, key discussion points, especially between Han and Leia. That's a very slow moment in the overall arch of the whole movie, which is why I think I like the scene of him just walking through the streets, because it kind of slowed down the pace a little bit. Problem is, it wasn't long enough.
See, I thought they should have had the Bo-Katan scene be right after the...
Wow, you're really skipping ahead.
We're talking about...
No, I see where you're going with it, yeah.
I think they should have put the Bo-Katan scene in after they did that beginning scene where he talked to the armor person.
Oh, that makes sense to me.
Because he would have gone from Mandalorians, okay, I need to go to Mandalore. I'm going to go to the last person I knew that was planning to go to Mandalore. She's not going anymore. I have to go get my droid. And then, I need to go get this part for the droid. Goes and fights pirates, shoots off into hyperspace, and scene ends so that the next episode could start with him coming back from hyperspace to wherever he's going next to get the little part.
That is an incredibly good point. Now that you say that, that does make more sense. Why on earth did he go there asking how to get to the mines when he doesn't even have IG-11 yet?
And why is he stopping
so,
his fetch quest to go talk to this girl? You
yeah,
know?
so
like priorities.
Bo-Katan makes a lot of sense right there. You're right, yeah.
If you had made that the second scene, it would have made sense because he's like, all right, well, let me figure out where the mines are. Talks to Bo-Katan. Oh, this is where it's at. They really fried the surface, and he goes, maybe I should get a droid. I know who to talk to.
So another point about that Bo-Katan scene, though, being where it is being kind of weird, is that he goes there, and it seems like he's trying to join her to go to Mandalore.
Feels like he's trying to recruit her.
He literally said, "I'm here to join you to go to Mandalore."
That's true.
And it's like, are you forgetting about your droid, buddy? Like,
yeah.
Like, what happened to the droid?
It's almost like they edited these scenes out of order.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I mentioned that the IG droid didn't seem to go anywhere, because it feels like that wasn't the next step, was to go back and fix the droid. It feels like that's done.
I think if you had placed that scene where your wife had suggested, that would have made a lot more sense. First goes, yep, I need to go to Mandalore. Goes to the person that knows where Mandalore is.
Because then he's looking for another path after that.
Yeah, would have made a lot more sense.
Anyway, back to pirates shooting people.
Pirates.
I loved when he went around that first asteroid and that one ship just blew up. That was my favorite part of that scene, because it just starts off the killing.
Dude,
this is pod racing.
Dude, it was like a slasher film in space.
Yeah.
He was hiding behind asteroids and shooting from one to the other, blasting them from hidden areas. It was so freaking great. I loved it so much.
Yeah, I was sitting here, I was like, this is amazing. And then I was like, wait, why does this person want a Razor Crest? I was like, where did this dude learn to fly in a dogfighting starship? This dude had a gunship this entire time. How did he figure out how to fly this well?
Yeah, so there is one problem with this scene, though. You want to know what it is? Can you guys have any guesses of what the problem is with this scene? The sequence.
I don't know. Is it a canon problem?
No, it's like a weird, I don't know what I would call it, continuity blunder, script error. I don't know.
Oh no, I have no concept.
Okay, so he's being chased by 3 ships initially, and then 3 more come in, so he's being chased by 6 in total.
Mm-hmm.
He blasts 5 of them, and the last guy takes him to the pirate ship.
Yes.
Yeah.
The pirate says, "You just blasted 4 of my ships out of the sky." When he blasted 5.
Yeah. I did not notice that. I think it's because most people hear 4, they think of the 4 dudes that died on the planet.
Well, yes, I initially thought, okay, maybe he's talking about those, but then he says ships. He blasted 4 ships.
Yeah, you're correct.
So,
yep, that's a script error.
Maybe he hasn't. He's not that good at communication with his fleet. They're not super coordinated. They're pirates, Yeah, he's still getting intel.
Yeah, I just thought that was funny.
So other than that, I think the scene is just really done well.
Oh yeah, overall.
Oh, I was like, could have been double the length, but I like what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing, I don't know why he used this special blue torpedo weapon. I was like, bruh, I think blasters do just fine.
If he had a lock on, it's better to shoot missiles than strafe.
He wanted to be sneaky.
Yeah, it's a proton torpedo.
Okay, that's what I thought. Again, I'm not a massive lore nerd,
but it's the similar concept to fighter jets. They usually they'll lock on and they'll shoot their missiles rather than strafe.
Missiles are preferred over guns, but you use the guns when you can't use the missiles.
And I think he used it in a decent, manner. He had a lock on. He was in prime position.
Well, now that you explain that to me, that makes sense. That means that if that guy tried to evade, he would have still gotten hit. Yeah. Okay, I get it.
Yeah, and I liked that Mando, when he was using his lasers, he wasn't just blasting them out of the sky every time. He was actually missing some. So it kind of brings.
He wasn't Poe Dameron that was just I knocked 7 X-Wings out in 5 seconds.
So it brings everyone down to a little bit even playing field there.
But he's still a skilled dogfighter because he took out 5 guys when he was outnumbered 6-1.
Yep.
But that's kind of how hard dogfighting is. I mean, someone with his skill is still missing, so it's.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah, I like the
Yeah.
imperfection again.
And I felt like it grounded it better.
He's not Ray, who got 3 TIE fighters in one shot.
Yeah,
You
God,
know.
shut up.
I'm actually big the Force.
He's all bombad.
So he gets done killing 5. He's trying to kill the last one, and we see the pirate ship.
Lisa, no.
So,
And about the Naboo.
so he did what the most logical thing was to do. He hit the afterburner. What'd you guys think of A, the ship design, and B, the design of the captain?
I loved it. Okay, so the ship.
Instantly thought of Davy Jones in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, Davy Jones. That was everyone's main. What I watched was main takeaway was like, oh, that's Davy Jones.
Okay.
Yeah, that was
The
like
ship, the pirate ship design. I was like, that's cool. A little small for an Eclipse Star Destroyer, but that's cool.
I was gonna say, I originally thought this was gonna be like the bad guy of the season when I was like, oh, there's the pirate dude that has
I mean,
the
it still
Eclipse.
could
Then
be
I was like,
the main baddie, honestly.
when you look at the scale, you realize, nah, that's a forget.
Yeah.
It ain't no Super
No,
Star
it just
Destroyer.
looks like it. It's
It just
a cool
looks like
homage.
one.
I think
Yeah.
it's a cool homage to it.
Looking back, I believe that's what it is. It's just to be like, hey, for those who like this particular one ship in the old EU.
Apparently the Eclipse Star Destroyer.
That's that nostalgia bites they like to do.
Apparently the Eclipse Star Destroyer is actually still canon.
Yeah, we just don't know if it's the Eclipse, as in the one of the design. The name of Emperor's flagship is the Eclipse still. We just don't know if it's just a bog standard Super Star Destroyer or if it's that special one with the Death Laser cannon on it, which after seeing episode 9, I don't see why it couldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, every Star Destroyer gets a Death Star gun at that point. I think the ship design looked really cool. It looked very piratey. I like how the guns just popped out of the bottom of the ship.
Yeah.
You just see the panels open. Again, engineer here, like that kind of stuff. Like I said, I like the mechanical bits and stuff in the universe. So can't say that I'm all that like design of the captain. I guess mission accomplished for what you're going for. Not my personal taste. Feels a little out of place for me, but that doesn't mean it doesn't work.
We haven't gotten any good pirate stuff in live action Star Wars, so
You are correct with that. Though immediately
I'm interested in the culture of it a little bit.
I'm sure it'll come back later, as a plot point.
if I wanted to see some like pirate stuff, I personally would like Tiberzon from Forces Corruption.
Or the Black Sun.
Yeah, even if they change the story, like he never gets the Superstar Destroyer or whatever, you can do that. I don't care. But the character of what he stands for, I think is amazing. I would love to see him be made re-canon again at some point.
Dude, they should do that and bring Jason Isaacs to play him because that's who he was like modeled after. So instead of Jason Isaacs playing the Grand Inquisitor like he should have, he can play Tiberzon.
I mean, that's the cool thing about being that made up and suited is you could recast
Yeah.
actors and it'd be fine,
Last scene.
So that leaves us one last scene, and then we'll be done.
Yeah, the infamous Bo-Katan scene. Honestly, as it is, just as the scene is like written and stuff, I liked it. I thought it was cool.
Aesthetically, yeah, I think it's pretty cool.
I liked the whole like backstory, like what happened to Bo after she lost. She didn't come back with the Darksaber. Like her followers, melted away. That kind of stuff. I thought that was really neat and kind of put more of a
Kind of humanized her.
yeah, put more of a wrench in between, like drove a wrench in between her and Din.
Yeah, she clearly is not a fan of him because of that. I will say,
I can't believe I'm gonna be the negative one here. All right.
That's okay.
well, what's interesting here is that in Rebels, Sabine gives her the Darksaber, and she's like, "We will get Mandalore back later." "No, I must win it from you." And he's like, "No, I'll give it to you." And she's like, "No, I must win it." It's like, bruh, or girl, you had it given to you, years ago. Why do you have to all of a sudden be like, I have to win it in combat now? Like, where did this come from?
So Katie Sackhoff, who plays Bo-Katan,
She's
and
awesome.
apparently in an interview, she said you should wonder that. You should ask that question. So there's something going on that will probably be played out in the season that kind of explains that.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see where that plot goes.
And they also made the Darksaber like, oh, if you don't know what you're doing, it gets heavy. I'm like, when did this happen?
Oh, yeah. So the big thing with this scene was like, I love the potential of it. I love the emotionality because there's so much, but again, so fast. I think we could have sat on the scene for like this could be even like the longest scene, like dealing with the most tragic thing that happens this episode. Like she loses everything. And I just feel like there's a lot of lost potential there because it's so fast. We could really dive into some of that emotional weight.
Again, goes to slowing down the pace, like I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
This could be one of those scenes that is just nice and slow, and you get to learn more about what's going on.
I think that maybe I was so not into it because I saw what it could be even more than the others, and it could be my favorite scene if it was that way. So maybe that's why I was like,
Especially if you put it in the right order.
Yeah. I think that like the content there and the idea of it losing all of that is really intense, and I love the idea of it. So I would have loved to hear her describe how Mandalore was destroyed.
Yeah.
Like she could have really gone into she'd be like, you don't understand, the mines are not here, this is what happened, and she could have taken like 5 minutes and gave us a story of what happened in Mandalore
with some like flashbacks and stuff.
Well, you could do flashbacks, but you could also just have them chatting. Again, it would slow down the pace. It would give us that time to really slow down and learn more about this world that we're in. What has happened? Because that's such a big thing for Star Wars, is the storytelling. It's not just the setting and blasters and, lightsabers. While that is a part of it, at the end of the day, they
also about puppets.
Yeah, well, the original trilogy was in a way almost like a space opera, so
it was a spacey opera B movie.
Western.
Flash camera.
Yeah, and every time they made a new movie, it got better and better at.
But I do love Katie Sackhoff. She's awesome and a really cool person, it seems like, in real life. And
I would have loved to see more connections to the past and what happened. I think this is something that the prequels do a lot in terms of like that storytelling. A lot of people like to reference the opera scene. Does anything major happen in that scene? Not really, other than just...
I mean, he reveals that he's being watched by the Jedi.
Only the most important prequel meme ever comes out of it.
I mean, that's like an enormous plot point.
Oh yeah, obviously it is a critical point, but it's not like the most... it's not like during a very important duel or anything like that. It's just him in the opera. He's like, have you ever heard this story about Darth Plagueis the Bride? All that, the whole meme.
Is it possible to learn this power?
Not from a Jedi.
From a Jedi.
It goes back to what I'm saying, is that we take a few minutes to learn about what's going on in the universe. And I think this could have been one of those moments if they had studied and taken the time to do so.
And to be fair, there's lots of potential in the future as well to dive into this topic. This isn't the only time that they could deal with it. She could be in there later and have some more stuff happen.
Yeah.
So.
And that's fair, but as we look at this episode as what we see it, in
an isolationist, yeah.
Right. And
totally.
Also this goes back to the whole point we all agree the pace in this episode is incredibly fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one major plot point after the other, and that's my personal gripe with it. It doesn't have these lows between the major plot points to slow down.
Could have been 2 episodes or a very, very lengthy opening for sure.
I would have been happy with a 1 hour premiere.
Yeah.
With the same content that we have in here.
You had about 20-25 minutes in there.
Yeah, and just slow it down, and I think it would have been great. And move obviously this last scene to like scene number 2, and it would have been a really good episode.
So to wrap up, where do you guys see the season heading from here? What would you like to see?
I talked about this earlier, but I'll just summarize it again. I think what's going to be is that the next several episodes are I'm searching for this item to fix IG-11. We'll get a couple episodes of that. So, because obviously he can't go straight to Mandalore, because then you would have, 8 episodes on Mandalore of him looking for a mine? That's not going to work.
Sign me up.
Well, unless he's going to several cities and he doesn't know where it is, but in this case, he knows where it is. He knows where the mine is. You're telling me he needs 8 episodes to get to the bottom where the water is? That just seems really stretched out. like I said, if you set it up properly, like no one tells him where the mines are, so he's got to look for it. Sure, you could do a whole season on Mandalore, but that's not what's been set up. I think what it is that at least half, maybe a little bit more, maybe 2/3 of the season are going to him trying to get IG-11. Probably stuff related to the Darksaber will come up, especially with Bo-Katan. Other than that, I think that's going to be the bulk of the season with, I think, like maybe a 2 or 3 episode finale with him going to Mandalore and getting his redemption.
I don't know what exactly we're gonna see, but what I would love to see is the breakaway of the cult and an independence in that, and realizing he doesn't need them or that belief to be worth something.
He never gets bathed. He realizes what stupidity he's doing.
Or he does bathe and he realizes this I'm literally believing in something. This water doesn't mean anything. I've gone to all this struggle and it's pointless.
Or he bathes and he's like, nothing changed. I'm just wet now.
Man, you're so much deeper than me.
Or it's poison and he gets cancer or something.
No, I just wanna see him break away from that cult and become whoever he is outside of being a Mandalorian.
I thought that's what he was doing at the end of season 2, and then they just bring him whole right back in with the Book of Boba Fett. Like,
but really, that's part of growing. Is you're gonna have setbacks where you're gonna want to go back to the life he had before, but he has to keep growing. But he's gonna keep, because they are his friends, they're his family that he grew up with. It's hard to leave all of that and just be like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Especially when he was left with disgrace, technically.
Yeah. So yeah, that's interesting. It'd be interesting if what you're wanting to see happens.
I don't think it will, but I think it's a cool way to go. It's my personal interest. I love that sort of dynamic, but it might not happen.
I wouldn't be against it if it did happen. I'd actually be like, about time you figured this out, you know.
I think he's gonna go on his fetch quest, get that whatever he needs.
Memory chip.
Along the way, he's gonna run into these pirates again, and they're gonna cause havoc with him, and he's gonna have to deal with this gang issue. I'm guessing that he's gonna get to Mandalore in the second to last episode, and they're gonna like drag it out as much as possible to not get him there.
Yeah.
And then I'm guessing the last episode he's gonna try to like get all his Mando buddies together and be like, we can actually go back, and either they will or they won't.
The more I watch it, more I kind of grow to like the character of Din Djarin more than I initially did, and that's a whole thing in itself. But I kind of want to see at least a struggle between him and Bo for the Darksaber and being the leader of Mandalorians. And honestly, my personal preference, Boba Fett comes back and becomes Mandalore and puts everyone in their place. But
that would be so out of left field.
I highly doubt
it's
ever going to happen. So I feel at this point Din has earned it, or is going to earn it, and actually probably in a sense what Tykoth wants, for him to break away and actually take up that mantle of being the leader.
And I don't want him to necessarily break away from all Mandalorians,
but
specifically his cult, or at least,
Yeah. Well, and I said this earlier, it's like, all the other Mandalorians like, bro, you don't have to keep your helmet on.
Since Mando took over an episode or two of Boba Fett, it makes sense that Boba gets to take over an episode of Mando.
Dude, let's do it, yeah.
Comes hijacks to his episodes.
Dude, I mean, in all seriousness, I do hope for more Boba Fett in Mandalorian. I don't know that it'll happen, but I very much hope he's in there somewhere.
I don't know about in Mandalorian, but I definitely want to see him more in like whatever they feel he fits best. Because like if he doesn't fit into the Mandalorian show, like I wouldn't want him to go there, but I would love to see him again somewhere in this universe.
Sure.
So piggybacking off of that, what characters do you think we'll see in this season of Mandalorian? Like returning or surprise characters? Because there's rumors to be some.
Well, if Disney was just trying to be like, ooh, look, character, and you go, what would be a character that would get people's attention? I would probably think Thrawn is the most likely candidate. I do too, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have like a brief appearance at some point.
Yeah.
Also, it's possible that Boba returns. I mean, To be honest, I think the way they have it set up between the two of them, if either one of them needs something, they can contact the other person.
Mm-hmm.
Which I had no problem. Mando coming help Boba. Like, Boba's like, I need help. Well, obviously the Mandalorian, right? The problem is he had 2 whole episodes of like, this is what Mandalorian's doing. When Boba was like, we should hire this guy. And I was like, what? But that's an issue with the Book of Boba Fett. But yeah, I mean, he already showed up in season 2 and was a key contributor of what happened in that season. It's not unlikely that he could come back again, but I kind of hope that they just stick to Mando, because I think I really liked the vibe of like season 1 of Mandalorian when it was just him.
I don't think it's going to happen, but I would love to see what would happen if Grogu met an Ewok.
Oh,
Like, just
my
imagine
God.
the cuteness
How-
overload.
Oh my God, I would pay so much money for that episode. I would do everything.
You could make it work. I mean, maybe there's a pirate trader that's got like an Ewok slave. I mean, if you played Empire War and got the expansion, there was a unit that had them. So
In Tor, I have a rogue Ewok on my ship being my companion, so who knows? Maybe there's an Ewok bounty hunter that we don't know about.
The most anger I
Doubt
have at
it.
Disney is over decanonizing the Ewok films.
Yeah.
That is what I just want them to bring those back. They fit. It's fine. Battle for Endor and Caravan of Courage can be made canon. It's all good.
I mean, if they found a way to go to Endor, I mean, heck, they did it in the sequels. Why not here, right? I mean, who knows? There's salvage there. Maybe there's an IG-11 chip there.
Who knows?
So what about you, Tykoth? What characters do you think we'll see, or do you want to see?
I'm betting we'll see like a Moff Gideon type of thing. Is he already even confirmed?
I think in some interviews he said stuff about returning, so he probably will end up showing up somewhere.
Yeah. I bet they're gonna fit him in somehow, and then I predict Boba Fett. I think he's gonna make it in there.
Is Andor in this timeline?
No.
Aww.
No, not even the.
He's dead,
he's
bro.
dead.
Not even the
Oh, I
slightest.
forgot.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's long
I
gone.
just can't wait for season 2.
And then because they love doing it so much, I could see another Luke cameo or Ahsoka cameo. I could see it, and I could definitely see a Fennec Shand cameo.
I could
So-
see Ahsoka being in the finale just to like kind of be like, hey, go watch the Ahsoka show now.
Yeah, that's true. Because Ahsoka's coming out later this year.
That's why I was like Thrawn, because I could see it more likely being that Mandalore is more of like an Imperial controlled world.
So there's rumors. I don't know, how substantial they are, but there's rumors that we're going to see a Han, Luke, and Leia like deepfake thing in the show. Yeah.
That's scary.
I don't know how I feel
That's
about
really
You
that.
know how that worked out.
I mean, if they deepfake it, yeah.
I like Luke. He's been great. He's been great.
If they deepfake the Luke as good as they did in Book of Boba Fett, then with everyone else, then I think they're getting better at the technology.
Well, I will say Book of Boba Fett was much better.
Yeah.
The problem I had is that something seemed off with his like vocals, and that's because it was AI. It wasn't Mark Hamill speaking. And if you listen to just his quotes, you can really tell they feel very artificial.
Yeah.
Like they don't sound like a human
Mhm.
talking. So I would prefer that they just have an actor that they deep fake over and just have that person speaking. I think it would sound better.
I really like Miggs from season 1. Well, he's in season 2 as well. Miggs, played by Bill
Oh,
Burr.
yeah.
I like him a lot.
Yeah.
I think he's.
He could make a comeback. I mean, he technically died.
That's what I was thinking.
You know who I would love to see? That lady who owns the space dock in
Tatooine.
Oh, I'm sure she'll be there. I think she's in the trailer, right?
Tatooine.
she's always a
Yeah.
hoot and a holler. Hoot and a half.
Well, it would make sense that he would go to Tatooine, right? Oh, I need this part that no one knows where it is. I'm gonna go to the Jawas on Tatooine. That would be my first place to go.
I'm pretty sure she's in the trailer
Yeah, she might been.
for season 3. I think she is in the trailer.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, if he's going to go back for Boba Fett,
Yeah.
then could show up. Yeah,
I really think Boba Fett is super likely. I think he's so likely.
I sure hope so.
To logically have Boba in the show, you would need a larger conflict that more than Mando would handle.
Maybe other Mandalorians.
If you have that whole what was it, frigate, space station, whatever, full of pirates, if this guy's like, you made me mad, I'm gonna send all my people on you now.
Well, yeah. Now, if he gets chased all the time and he gets tired of it, maybe he goes to Boba and like, "Hey, there's this like large frigate that I can't fight on my own, and he keeps chasing me all over the place. I'm getting tired of it. Can we assemble a force just to kill him so I can get on my way?" Yeah, that would probably be your best bet if you really wanted to get Boba in. But I honestly feel like it's a stretch to try to get Boba in at this point.
Yeah, well, maybe. We'll see. All right, well, thanks, guys. This has been an incredible 2-hour discussion of Mandalorian Episode 1. I hesitate to see what we do for the next episodes.
Especially if more people join us.
Yeah, and I can't confirm or deny, but another person may join us next week, but we'll see. But yeah, so any closing thoughts before we sign off?
This was fun.
I had a good time. I think the season is potentially promising.
I like it.
Little early to say. I think a lot of us are a bit more reserved, or at least some of us are, about Disney content. So,
yep, that's me.
We might see something. Hey, it looks good, but they have a.
I'm a Star Wars slut. I'll just take it all.
Yeah. But other than him, I think the rest of us are a little bit more reserved and cautious about when it comes to Star Wars content.
I'm the only slut here.
I think for me, I don't think I'll be fully able to enjoy it until I see the entirety of the season. And then I can go, okay, it was a good season. I can go back and enjoy it now. Because I'm always on edge when I watch content now because I've been burned so many times.
Do you like fun?
I just love being able to geek out about Star Wars with other people who actually know what they're talking about.
Yeah, the different backgrounds, the different perspectives are great.
Yeah. Well, I like other people to be able to help me remember, like, oh, what's that planet called? What's that person's name? What is this alien? Because I don't remember all those details. I just remember the main points.
Yeah.
It's a tauntaun.
Curl up inside and take a nap.
It's a hey blipper.
Yeah, I remember some things, but I can't remember everything. Yeah.
Smash into boss's hey blipper, then vanish.
What are your final thoughts?
My final thoughts. It's promising. Like we kind of covered, the first episode is the pacing's kind of weird, but overall everything in it was cool, with just a few minor misses here and there. But I'm excited to see where it goes. And for someone who's not a huge fan of Disney in general, Disney Star Wars in general, this is one of their gems. And I'm gonna give all the credit to Jon Favreau because I really don't like Dave Filoni, and we're not.
Then why'd you bring it up?
But anyway, I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm excited for Bad Batch to finish up so I can binge that second season.
I've yet to watch that, and I haven't watched Andor either.
You should watch Andor.
Oh my goodness! Watch Andor, please.
Kind of salty over Obi-Wan,
It's kind of interesting because me and Ant both think Andor is like the best Star Wars that exists.
You're probably right, but
it's top notch.
It is like, if you enjoy movies that are like a heist movie / a criminal type of thing, but throw it in the Star Wars universe.
Well, I told you my preferred is the boots on the ground of soldiers, so.
If you like things that are good, then you will like it.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be a good palate
if
cleanser.
You don't like things that are good,
if you're thinking about just right off the back of Obi-Wan, sour taste of Obi-Wan in your mouth, just watch Andor. It'll all be over soon. I promise.
Dude, I was very salty after Obi-Wan.
and then if you're like me and you're left with a nice sweet tooth after Obi-Wan because you had a really good time, then it's also good.
But you can have a discussion on Obi-Wan as a separate one.
Maybe after Bad Batch is over, we just need to have a conversation about all the shows.
Yeah, we should do a video on Obi-Wan sometime.
That would be like a 3-hour.
I'll have
Because
to
that'll
rewatch it.
definitely be
That could turn violent.
that'll be a mixed bag.
Oh my goodness. I'm trying to hold in so many things.
Because he's my guy.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan, aka the Little Leia Show.
All right, thank you everyone for watching and staying with us for this long.
See you next week.
And I hope it's been entertaining.
Bye.